All right, and here we are. This is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams, and we are back. Hello and welcome. This is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams, and it is a beautiful, cloudy day, and it's cold again. The weather had gotten so nice, and now it's not. But I'm excited to be here. We have a great guest and a great show, and I'm ready to jump right in. We have Amy Robbins with us.
Hello.
And definitely the most famous person to ever be on the show, I think. And
that's really sad, then, Zach. We gotta get you.
It's real sad. It's real sad. But now I was looking at your website, and so I was like, oh my God, she's been on a bunch of shows. I'm gonna totally jack this up. So
it's very hard to screw up a podcast, and you're a professional. You've been doing this a very long time, which I didn't even realize how long you guys have had this show. So I'm just honored to finally get on here.
Yeah, that's our best attribute. Is we could say we started in 2017. Now we only recorded 3 episodes. The first one was in 2017. So we're going strong.
Y'all were like podcasting before podcasting was really a thing.
That is true.
Yeah.
We were ahead of the time because we were in I think I told you, we're in like a closet-sized room. Jeff Crilly got me to do this, and I think we had like some egg cartons taped on the walls, for sound. And
I can't remember when we started our show, the show that I do, but I just remember my friend coming to me being like, this is my best friend, and she's like, we got to do a podcast. I'm like, podcast? Like,
nobody listens to podcasts.
Who just wants to listen to people talk all day long? I don't get it, and I'm glad she pushed me to go do it. And we were kind of able to build. I feel like it was easier to build audiences back then because you weren't competing with so many podcasts at this point.
At this place.
I know
they got like 10 studios.
It's wild.
I don't know how many shows they do, but they do a lot of them.
But it's so true. It has been our best marketing tool for what we do with my business and getting that message out there. Plus, you get to meet super cool people and share their stories as well with the world. So honestly, I feel like if you are in business, you own a business, you need to have a podcast. That's just some free advertising for Jeff Crilly in the studio there. So and I don't even do my show here. I don't do it at Crilly's.
I'm sure he's going to ask you again.
Every time I get the spiel every time. Yes.
Well, good. I hope you do. Then I'll see you more often.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So Amy, you are the CEO of Athletica. Alexo Athletica.
Yes, Alexo. I know.
Told you I was going to jack it up.
No, we just wanted to do this really fun thing where we created an alliteration that made it extremely hard for everybody to say our company name. So, you're not the first one to mess it up. But yeah, it's Alexo Athletica.
And what does Alexo mean?
Oh, that's a great question. So Alexo means to defend and to help in Greek.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it's from the Greek.
Yeah, it is from the Greek.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a lot before we started, but it's a cool story. So give us your version of that.
Yeah.
Your podcast version of that story, how y'all started.
Well, sure, because there was a story behind why we named our company something that meant to defend and to help. So back in 2015, I went out jogging, and I got followed and harassed by a van full of men. It was a very scary situation for me. At that point, I did not carry any form of self-defense tool on my body. It honestly had never crossed my mind.
Right.
I had always run this exact same route. It was a very safe area. And like most women, I just never thought about my safety being a thing because nothing had ever happened. Why is it going to happen
you
now?
Live in Texas.
Live in Texas. You're,
DFW, farm roads.
Well, it was farm roads, and I'm like, you love being back there in these secluded areas. But this day was different, and I tell everybody that I was very lucky that the catcalling and the harassing did not escalate to anything beyond that, because honestly, it would be 7-on-1. There's nothing I could do if it did escalate. They were bigger, stronger, and faster. But I got a second chance. And so when I got to run home, that entire experience was extremely impactful for me. And I was like, I gotta go see
God.
like how often is this happening to women? How many women have experienced this? And oddly enough, Runner's World had just come out with a big article talking about women runner safety. And at that time in 2015, it was like 80% of the women that they polled said that their safety had felt threatened while they were walking, at some point, walking or running. And I'm like, that's like a big percentage.
So did you want to get out and run the next day? Like what? Like
I did. I thought a lot about it, but I started thinking in a different way. I started thinking, okay, I need to have a plan. I need to maybe run with my cell phone. And actually, the day that I got back, I actually called all of my buddies who ran LTC courses, and I was like, get me signed up. I got to get my license to carry. I literally jumped from like carry nothing to carry a gun.
Right.
And so I went and I got my license to carry. And now, just a little caveat to that is I had the year before been getting a lot of training with some of the best instructors in the world. So I felt very confident and comfortable with firearms. So that's why I went to a firearm.
So
So I said, let me get my license to carry. But that Runner's World magazine said they actually did a survey to see what type of self-defense tools women were carrying. It said 50% of women were carrying some form of self-defense tool, whether that was like mace or a taser. Knowing them, they probably didn't include firearms in that study, but I knew just being in that world how many women were starting to get their license to carry. So it's a large growing number, and it's even expanded way beyond that since 2015. So as I started researching, once I got my firearm, I was like, oh, there is nobody in the firearm space making apparel that is geared towards women runners, nothing that looked good, and nothing in the athletic space. Those two missions didn't usually align, giving women the ability to carry a self-defense tool.
Running cargo pants or...
So I, with no background in manufacturing, no background really in design, it just was a calling, and I said, look, if someone's going to do it, I'm going to do this. And I want to make not just a business, but I want to build a community of empowered women, and I want to make products that could potentially save millions of people's lives. So I gave this whole business plan to my husband. I told him about it. First, he was like, that's running with a gun? Like, really? Like, you want to run with a gun? I'm like, yes. After that, yes. Yeah. I do, because I want the best fighting chance.
Well, I'm sure he wanted you protected too out there.
Sure, I don't, like, but people weren't running with their guns. And like, that was definitely just not a thing in the market. And, a lot of people laughed when I first told them about this. But I think, just due to the nature of what I was doing prior to starting this business, I was starting to hear a lot of women talking about this very issue, and then nobody was solving this problem for them. So it was a lot of faith. It was a lot of stepping out in faith to say, this is a big risk we're going to take care. But if we do this right and we execute it well and we make quality, very good looking products that are rivaling the current active wear that women are already wearing, if they can feel sexy and self-reliant, then we've got something. This is a win here.
The clothes look amazing. I've been on your website.
Thank you.
They're really good looking. I mean, kind of the
fashion background helps a little.
Lululemon stylish kind of stuff you see so many people wear. But
Yahoo Finance did a big feature on us and called us the Lululemon of the gun world, and I took that as a badge of honor. I said, this is great. If they're using, Alexo and Lulu in the same sentence, like, wow, we've reached it. We've reached the pinnacle, so yeah.
Oh man, that is really cool. So you launched the company. How do you break into that world of clothing? Because I mean, to me that seems like I play a lot of golf, and I love golf clothes. And but I ever thought, like, what if I try to launch like a golf clothing brand? How do you compete in such a market of these huge heavy hitters?
That was one thing that I thought of, because obviously I knew the numbers on the athletic market and how big it was, how saturated it was. And I said, if we don't have a differentiator, this isn't going to work. So our differentiator obviously was that we had built-in pockets and spaces for a woman to carry all of her essentials. Now, we also knew, having a background in the firearm industry, you mentioned anything about women and guns and anything like that is pro women protecting themselves, it's probably going to pick up a lot of attention. And,
Positive and negative.
Use that to our advantage. I didn't anticipate as much negative press or attention that we were going to get. I probably should have, but I didn't. But you were asking how we got into it. Honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. Sure. Had I actually known what I was about to get into, I think I probably wouldn't have done it. And I actually encourage people not to get into the clothing business because it is extremely hard. And unless you have a lot of money to pump into marketing, which we didn't. We were self-funded. We were taking a chunk of money from our sales, putting it in on our business, and just seeing if it had legs.
Right.
And, we did get a lot of earned media right at the beginning that, like you said, both positive and negative, that really drove some loyal consumers to our website. Because apparently this was a big problem.
Yeah.
And women really did want to feel, women were wearing activewear, whether they were running or not, they were wearing activewear 90% of the day. And
it's really comfortable to lay around on the couch.
Super comfortable. And the fact now that you have like 8 pockets built into this clothing,
all your
that
snacks
you got we have plenty of college girls that call them their snack pants because they're not old enough to carry a gun. And a lot of interesting fact, a lot of college campuses won't even allow you to carry any self-defense tools.
No
mace, no tasers. You get a rape whistle. You might, if you're lucky, they might pass out rape whistles at student orientation. Which is so bizarre to me, and then those phones on campus half the time don't even work, the emergency phones. Our college girls are very vulnerable, but a lot of them still supported our mission and what we were doing. And they're like, we just want pockets in our leggings. So they shove as many snacks as they can in there and snack pants.
Isn't that crazy that you can't protect yourself because this last horrible story happened. Didn't it happen on campus? I know it was
they drug her off. She was running on campus, but he apparently drug her off campus when it happened. And interesting about that is University of Georgia actually has campus carry. So as long as you are old enough to, whatever their laws are, I think it's 21 and older, you were able to carry on campus.
They've got to be one of the few campuses.
So we have it in Texas. So there's several states that have
change laws.
The public, as long as it's a public university. Private universities don't have to abide by that, but public universities do in the states that have campus carry. So there was a big movement and big push for that because you look at the stats on college campuses with the things that happen late at night as women are walking across campus, they're vulnerable. And so, women wanted to be able to protect themselves. And getting a campus carry law passed actually set a precedent so that they could carry other tools. Because we know at the end of the day, not every woman wants to carry a gun. Not every woman is going to, especially not young women. But having the ability to carry something is extremely important. You just, you got to level the playing field sometime. And I think a lot of these organizations or groups that put these bizarre laws in place are like, you just can't carry anything. The defense, they think it's helping. Yeah, they tell
that we're unarmed here.
Yeah, I don't know if they think that putting these laws by more laws, more people will obey more laws, and yet we continue to see where do usual mass shootings happen at places where there are no guns allowed signs. Yeah. So more laws, more signs don't stop criminals from doing things. But you know who does listen to those signs? Law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, the criminals were breaking laws long before we started creating more.
That's why they're criminals. They became a criminal somehow. And, so why we think more laws stop crime, they don't. They only places law-abiding citizens in a more vulnerable situation. Yeah. And so,
doesn't it drive you nuts that is such an easy concept to understand and you tell it to people and they look at you like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You're like, criminals will bring the guns where you're not supposed to bring the guns. How do you not understand that? They're like,
I didn't think about that. I never thought about that, and crazy. It is crazy. And I feel like it is my mission to just make sure that every woman has a fighting chance to make it home safely. We focused on runners at first because that's how we launched this. We wanted to be a very niche company.
That's the catalyst. You run
niche on top of niche, like guns and runners. People think it's a very small circle of people, but those were the ones that I just felt very connected to because I was a runner and I had this problem as well and I wanted to solve this. And obviously we've expanded beyond that, but at the heart of what we do, it is making sure every female runner makes it home safely. And we're going to continue to make gear. I'm not going to stop until we just make sure that everyone has an opportunity to do that, how they feel comfortable and confident.
Well, it's an interesting point you bring up. Obviously, you look at clothes you might run or work out in. They're obviously not built for tactical reasons.
Yeah.
But, I have an LTC. I've had one for a long time. I was in the military, so very comfortable around weapons.
Yeah.
And I do carry some. I don't carry all the time, but it's uncomfortable to carry, And police, I guess, I know some ex-cops are not cops anymore, and they always do.
Yeah.
And I always, my buddy Frankie, I'm like, how do you sit down in your car with that
I
45 and
and then you have that metal
right
you have the Kydex on top of it, you have all this stuff, and that was very important to me, was the comfortability aspect of this, because as women, if it's adds bulk, no woman wants to add anything more bulky or wear any more clothes that are more bulky to them. They don't want, anything that's uncomfortable. We still want to be safe with the tools that we're carrying, but it had to fit into our lifestyle. And I knew most women that are getting into this aren't super well versed on your custom molded Kydex holsters with the clip on it. They didn't know this. So we wanted to make it as a very easy entry point for women. So we built it into the waistband of all of our bottoms. So whether it's skirts, joggers, leggings, whatever, whatever bottoms we have. And then the shirts complement that lifestyle. So they're still flattering, they're still sexy. You still feel great in it, but it has the functionality that you need as well.
Right.
And that was important, because I'm like, for women, if it takes like more thought, they're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make it as easy as possible for busy moms, busy college students, busy just women in general, to just grab their firearm of choice, have a place to store it on their body, and be ready to go throughout their day.
No, I love that. But you could do that with kind of all articles of clothing, right? Because this is how I probably operate every single day, and it's not comfortable to carry a weapon in what I'm wearing. So I usually leave it in my truck.
Right.
Now, if I'm in a sketchy area and I'm like, maybe I'll just keep this with me while I'm over here.
You need some of our Alexo men's pants.
I saw on your website that you had men's
I know,
stuff
we
now,
sold.
so
we do have
that's
the joggers. We're sold out of all the shorts and our original joggers that we made, but we have another set of joggers. So you should have to let me know what size you wear. We'll get you some. Because that's my husband's mission, because he did not carry at all.
Well, you'll have a huge marketplace with men, because
huge.
I'm a perfect example.
Yeah.
I would carry more if it wasn't so uncomfortable.
And then
I choose the areas that I'm like, okay, this area is sketchy.
Yeah.
But you never know when shit will pop off, and you have to be prepared.
Guys we think about safety and preparedness in different terms, really. Most guys aren't going out on a jog worried that they're going to get followed, harassed, and potentially murdered.
Right.
That doesn't cross their mind. So, but when men carry, it's usually like if their family is going to be with them, or they're going to protect, or like you said, if you are in a specific sketchy situation that you don't want to find yourself in a 3-on-1 showdown. You're like, I might take my...
Anytime you go to downtown
Dallas. I might take my firearm with me in that situation, but it's not all the time on the forefront of your mind, because you could probably have a fair fight with a dude, and another guy that comes up against you, unless he has a weapon, it's probably going to be a fair fight. It's not a fair fight when it's a guy versus a girl.
Well, and guys, we don't typically walk around, unless we're in prison, worrying about sexual assault either.
Right.
Which,
yes. And guys
which is a big trigger, that can end in murder.
Exactly.
Which is,
women are softer targets predominantly. They're more vulnerable. Guys know that they're bigger, stronger, and faster, and it's probably not going to be a big fight. And they're definitely not expecting most women to have any tool that they're going to fight back with.
Yeah.
And really, what I love to teach women, because I do a lot of seminars, I go around and speak a lot to women, is I like to teach women about everything you can do to not even get in this situation that you're going to have to use that tool.
Right.
And because that's the goal. I tell everybody that's the goal.
Any responsible, law-abiding gun owner does not want to ever have to use that weapon.
Ever. But
and if you do want to, you probably don't need it
Right, you probably shouldn't be the one that is carrying it. Yeah. But also, at the same time, you never want to, but if you're not in the mindset that says, I will, if I have no other option, and it is my life, my family's life, I will do what is needed to protect them, then also you probably shouldn't be carrying. Like you really have to make
then
that.
Then it's going to get used against you.
Yeah, you have to make, that is a serious, weighty decision to make when you go and get your license to carry, and then you start actually carrying it on your body. And that's why I say most of these problems that we're seeing today with gun violence is not coming from the community that took the time to go through all of the steps and the laws, to follow the law, to get the training, to feel comfortable, because they feel the weight. They've been through the classes. They know what the law states about this. They understand that they're going to jail. They pull that firearm, even in a self-defense situation, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
You're going to have expensive court fees and legal battles. And like, when you really understand that and know that, then you look at the law of self-defense very differently.
And some of the DAs that you have around the country, that they're gonna try and prosecute you like you are a criminal for defending yourself.
And make an example out of you. But to that point, if you still choose to do it and make that decision to protect yourself or your family, you understand that gravity and that weight. And that's why you don't take it lightly, and you're not just walking around looking to pick fights with people.
Yeah.
My try to be as polite. There's a lot of power that comes with self-control and restraint when you know you have a tool that will potentially save your life or take the life of somebody else. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna do everything I can to be as nice and not let situations escalate. Yeah, the de-escalation is a part of that series of points that I make with women is, if you can de-escalate, but have the confidence to say no and to stand your ground if you have a way to back that up.
Yeah.
And for me, that was, having a firearm gives me the confidence to look somebody in the eye and be like, don't come any closer. You're making me uncomfortable. Back away. And had I not, then I might shy back. I might be more quiet. I might try to be kinder or just do whatever I could to not make this, go beyond that point. But when I have a way to back it up, it just gives me confidence.
Right. Yeah. And that's what you want. You want to be able to move around in the world confidently.
You want to be able to go running where and when you want to.
It's supposed to be America.
It's supposed to be America, and we are supposed to have freedom. And women these days, we're empowered, and we should be able to do what we want when we want to do it. Now, I do still take wisdom into account, but there are sometimes you can't help where you live. If you're in an area that is, it's what you can afford, and there might be high crime in that area, and you are training for a marathon and you love to run, you shouldn't be limited to where and the times. Because this might happen to me. No, just be as prepared as possible. Take into consideration situations that you could find yourself in, and be aware of your surroundings at all time. The people that are around you while you're running, don't put your earbuds in your ear. If I want to go on the Katy Trail and set up a table that gives bonkable scores to people. And I want to be like, you are a 10 bonkable. Like I could bonk you on the head and you would not even know it.
Yeah, come right up behind you and
take your earbuds out. It's like the simplest thing you can do. I just probably annoy everybody when I run because I just have my music playing, but it's in the pocket. We have a specific phone pocket for your phone in our Alexos. I don't care. I just let people hear it. Let them listen to my music.
I'm sure it's great music.
It's maybe, and then sometimes they might not like my podcast that I'm listening to. You never know. But what it does is it helps me focus my attention on looking around me, noticing the cars. What are the cars doing that are around me? Is there anyone following me? Is there suspicious behavior? Is there someone that's acting a little off? Whatever that is, it just gives my internal response time to start processing what's going on around me when I don't have something shoved in my ears.
Yeah. In the gym, you can put your earbuds in.
Put your earbuds in at the yes, great place at the gym. If you're a treadmill runner, do it. Yes,
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, so what's next for y'all with the company? You moved into men's clothing. Is that a newer thing?
It is. Yeah. So over the last couple of years, all the guys were sending us messages. What about the guys? There's plenty of us that want to carry.
Don't be a sexist, Amy.
Yeah, but I'm like, wow. Well, okay. The men's market in the firearm industry is little different. The market's a little different as to who they're going after. So it was going to take a lot more money to start marketing to men and break into the men's the men's
So
section.
what was
but-
how did y'all start? With the jogging kind of?
with the shorts, yeah. So actually, my husband designed all of the men's stuff.
Wow.
He's the one that came up with our tuck and carry design, which gives you the ability to tuck. So it's essentially like a belly band, think of it, that's built into the garment. And then we have a tuck and carry waistband that actually allows you to tuck your shirt in and carry inside the waistband, so that if you need to have a more dressy shirt or you don't want to print, you have the ability to do that. So he designed garments that he, as a normal guy, he doesn't have military or law enforcement background. He never even carried a gun.
Yeah.
Until they designed the men's line. And he was like, if I'm going to wear it, I know there's a market.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so from there, luckily I had a lot of buddies that were, I had like all my Navy SEAL buddies try it out. I'm like, if it passes the Navy SEAL test,
Oh, yeah. Right.
we're in. We're golden. So I would send them the gear. I'd be like, you just test this out. I need your thoughts on it. I know you're not ever going to endorse a product that's not safe or works or fits into your lifestyle. And so we started having all of them test it, had some good buddies that had some pretty big shows. Or I think I told you earlier, my buddy Jack Carr, who wrote a book called The Terminal List.
Yeah.
He did us
book.
a solid. He threw us a big bone. I didn't even know
huge.
it. Wrote about us.
Is that why you're sold out of the stuff, because of the Jack Carr?
At that time, I don't even remember if we had men. We should have. He should have told me he was putting us in there. We would have launched our men's line quicker, because he's a huge men's audience, obviously.
Yeah.
But
that community is so strong. The pro-gun one, but the military community and all that, them supporting you should just pay major dividends.
I'll
as y'all
say
continue.
this about guys. Guys are a lot more, let's say, picky or gearheadish. When it comes to their gear, they have their this is how I carry, and that's it. A lot of guys. But then you have this whole segment of men that are kind of like my husband, who aren't in that world, don't follow gun pages, don't really follow the concealed carry pages, but he just wants to keep his family safe. And we're finding more and more men like that are out there. And
it's
so
changing.
it's totally changing.
My boss in New York, and he always gives me some, just shoot them kind of, this Texas, New York thing. We're all just down here firing
right,
guns
we're
all the
wild,
time.
wild west in our streets all the time.
Well, after what happened, in Israel because of Gaza, and, he's a New York, Manhattan Jewish man.
Yep.
Last time he's in town, we're talking, and he was like, I think we're going to buy a gun. And I'm like, what?
Wait, he lives in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Has he checked out the rules?
Well, they have a place up in the, up on the beach. I think that the rules are a little.
It is outside
less.
of New York City. You
need to buy them here, and I don't know.
Yeah,
he has the means to get around it, I'm sure, for whatever he has to do. But it was actually, he told me it was his wife that was really the one kind of pushing on that, because what spurred up after that in New York, all these protests, these anti-Israel protests.
Well,
and everything. That'd scare me.
8 million first-time gun owners went out and purchased a firearm for the very first time after the pandemic. After the riots, after everything that was happening, they said, okay, you're starting to see, and there was a myriad of events that took place, I think probably drove people to go do that. One being cities were starting to defund their police, and people were realizing, they were calling the cops saying, hey, we'll take Los Angeles, for example, because that's where I had a lot of friends calling me during what was going on in LA, and they said, how do I get a gun? And I was like, okay, well, you go down to your gun store, but I'm going to warn you, you have to wait 10 days. Because you voted to put people in place that put policies on the books that hurt you as a law-abiding citizen, that you couldn't defend and protect yourself at the moment you needed to. So don't be alarmed. You can't take your gun home with you the day that you walk into the gun store. They're like, wait, what? I'm like, I was like, you have a 10-day waiting period. So I really hope the riots, this doesn't come to your front door. They're like, well, I had someone trying to break in, and the cops said, sorry, better luck. We're underfunded. We're understaffed. We can't get there. And I think that is the biggest revelation to people that probably came out of the pandemic, was nobody is coming to save you.
No.
Nobody. You only have yourself to rely on when seconds matter. I say the cops are minutes away, if they even ever get there. And that is not a knock on the cops. They just simply cannot be everywhere at all times. And they are not designed, it is not their job to protect you. they show up when the crime has been committed, but it is not their job
Yeah,
to
they're not
go
gonna
in
post
and
up
to
in front
stop
of your
it.
house. Yeah.
They're not. It's your responsibility. You are in charge of you. You are in charge of your kids. And if you're not prepared and don't have a plan to do that, you cannot rely on somebody else to come and save the day. And I think a lot of people realize that. And what was the default for most people? Go out and buy a gun.
Yeah, well, I mean, any critical thinking would think, you know what, if some shit went down here at my house,
Yeah.
and I had to call the police, how long till they really actually get here?
Right. And
You
how
know? And probably
quickly?
the best case scenario, it's 3 to 5 minutes.
Right.
If they're right down the road.
A lot can happen in 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
In LA, God
Yeah.
even knows how long that would be.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, what are you going to do in that time?
Yeah, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have
Ask
a
your
way.
attackers to wait for the police to get here before
Exactly.
we continue?
Yeah. You're like, hey, can you stop for a second,
Yeah,
please?
I don't
Like,
have a gun.
let me make a call.
You probably already knew that. You know.
Yeah, I know. But again, a lot of people are not proactively thinking about this stuff. We don't like to. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It makes us feel like, are we projecting these, icky things into the world if we're always thinking about our safety?
I'm guilty of it myself.
And that we like to live in our comfortable, safe
cocoon.
little worlds.
Yeah.
We do. And unfortunately, it's not the reality, but being prepared can limit your paranoia.
Totally.
And it's no different than why we keep a spare tire in our cars. I don't think
point.
about every day that I'm going to, what happens if I
possibly have a
get a flat? I'm not stressing about that every day. Why? Because I'm prepared. And if it happens, I'm glad I had it and I'm never going to need it versus wish I had it and now I need it. And
Did you read 1 Second After? Came out in 2009. It's about the EMP.
No.
I'm reading it right now. My wife read
Okay.
it. And I knew when I started reading it was going to give me anxiety.
Yeah, you get like Faraday blankets on everything.
That's a full shutdown of everything if that really, really happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get anxiety when I read that. But now I've started reading it. It's an amazing book.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, what do you do?
Yeah,
Just ignore it, or do you at least have some type of level of preparedness to?
I'd said that with this whole cell phone outage thing. People didn't realize they woke up that morning.
The AT&T thing? Yeah. That's what my wife said. She's like, it's happening.
Yeah, I know. They're like, leave the world behind. It's happening right now.
And then you get bad information because she found some article that it was solar flares, and I'm like, well, I guess it is. And then hours later, my buddy's like, no, that's been debunked, and I'm like, what is true?
Who knows? And I think that is the sad thing. The only thing that is true is that you can go be prepared for your family.
And yourself,
I talked to my husband after this, and I said, okay, this was very eye-opening, this cell phone outage thing, for multiple reasons. One, it showed us how reliant we are on our devices. So if there was an emergency, there is no calling the cops. Some people's SOS wasn't even working during that time.
Yeah.
So you're not calling the cops. What if you're on the highway, you don't have service, and you get a flat? Do you know how to change a flat? Do you have a spare? Like AARP or whoever it is
I don't think most people know how to change a tire anymore.
I don't think they do. And so, okay, then
some of these cars don't even have spare tires anymore.
Ours doesn't. Our big doesn't. And I was like, wait a minute. What? Drew's like, well, I got the good tires that are like, they won't deflate.
Yeah.
I'm like, but we should still have a backup plan, like just in case. And then maps. Do you actually know where you're going? If your phone is not working, your cell phone coverage, you don't have access to your GPS, because most people don't just have Wi-Fi on all the time as you're driving. So, is it a good idea to possibly get an up-to-date, current, old school road map?
You mean the one you have to fold?
I think they have booklets now that are a little nicer.
Those are impossible to refold once you open them. You can't even get it back in your
but maybe you have that on there. But it just got me thinking about some of these things that really aren't at the forefront of your mind. And I was like, if you don't know where you're going, what if you end up in a sketchy area? Then you don't know how to get out of there. Then you don't know what's around you. You're not sure how to get back. So we're just so reliant on these little devices. Again, we're relying on somebody else for our livelihood. Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest thing. I think that was my aha moment. Like, okay, how reliant am I on other people for everything in my life? And let's start making things that we can do to kind of move away from that and we're never going to live in a society right now where we don't need a phone.
Yeah.
But if you don't have cell phone coverage, which it's very possible that it could happen, what is your other plan? Is it a ham radio? Is it a sat radio? Do you have a backup? Do you have a plan in place with your family that says, hey, if cell phones are down for this amount of time, we meet here. We have like a family meeting place? Do you give yourself and your family a set amount of hours that everyone's on the same page? Hey, if we can't get in contact with each other, let's just at least have a meetup location that we can meet, talk through this. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe we need to move to the next plan.
Yeah.
And the EMP thing it's possible. Like it's not so far out there anymore that it could happen. And think about every single thing that it would affect in your life.
Pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything. Then how do you get to the grocery store to get your food? How do you get, so these little things. Now, could they fix these problems within like a couple weeks?
A little more, yeah.
But could you be a little bit more prepared? I remember when the freeze came a couple years ago and all of our electricity was out. None of us ever thought our electricity would be out in America for that long.
More than a day.
Yeah. No, not where we're like getting blankets to sleep at nighttime. But again, okay, the grocery stores are not having food.
Yeah.
This isn't having water. We have, the power plants are down. So yeah, lots to think about.
Lots to think about. Well, you're gonna have to come back on. We didn't even talk about the MCBA, but that's okay because you know what? You segued perfectly into it about LA and about how people voted.
Yep.
Or didn't vote. It's more about not voting.
It's about not paying attention to the policies that are in place and the people that are responsible for those policies. And a lot of us woke up after the pandemic with a broader appreciation for our local government or an understanding of how the local government's decisions actually affect our quality of life and our everyday life. And I would love to come back on to talk about the MCBA because that is really, it's a mission of mine now to start helping people realize that and get businesses in our DFW community engaged in an organization that is focused on really connecting everybody to this local process when it comes to voting.
And partly it's hand in hand with your company, what you're doing to try to help and protect people. Like our local officials need to help prepare and protect people and not disarm people so that they can't protect themselves.
Right. Not shut down our businesses and our livelihood when...
Well, people became rulers like in no time. Like the county commissioners. Wow.
Yeah, I think a lot of us paid attention to that and we've woken up to the fact of what these people do that can affect our everyday life. And it's like, we no longer can blame the President of the United States when our police services are down.
Yeah.
When our infrastructure is failing in our cities, when our parks are dirty, there's trash in the area, when there are homeless encampments popping up everywhere in Dallas, that is not the president's fault.
It's
not the state, that is not the governor's fault. There are things that could be done at the local level that really can start helping clean up our city and move us in a direction that makes us very fertile for businesses to want to come here and do business.
Which creates more opportunity for all and
everybody.
And even the people that are, down on their luck.
Exactly.
More opportunity can pull them out of it.
That's exactly right.
Much better than being able to freely shoot up heroin under a bridge.
Right. Yes.
In your local town.
Yeah. Well, when there's no consequences for that. And, but what we saw, especially during the pandemic, was when the businesses left, the cities failed.
Yeah.
And we don't want to see that happen to Dallas, to this Metroplex. This is such a great area. We know people are moving here to do business, not always to Dallas proper, but they're moving to the surrounding areas. And we want them to come to Dallas.
Thing that was in the last meeting that we had, how the Dallas proper population has not increased.
I know.
Who would have bet that?
I know. Well, but you think about it.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Well, with the taxes, with the regulations to do business, the schools, the
homeless.
The crime.
Yeah.
Our downtown Dallas crime is, I think, 5 times higher than downtown Fort Worth. We need more police presence downtown
Fort Worth has private security downtown.
So they have a public-private, they have a public-private partnership, which is a really great model. But we need at least 30 more full-time police officers in downtown Dallas to really help get the crime under control. We need about 4,000 total police officers in Dallas. We're only at about 3,100 right now. Yeah. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on getting more police officers because more police equals lower crime.
For sure.
So, and lower crime equals lower over policing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. and better lives for everyone. So.
It's exactly right. So I would love to come. We can
We'll-
talk
we'll-
more about that all day long. So,
Yeah, we will. We'll reschedule and have you come back on because
Excellent.
that's such a. I'm so excited. I'm so glad that organization's here. And,
Thank you.
And that there's kind of a roadmap to.
Well, we're just trying to get the word out. We're growing the organization. We're up to 130 companies now that represent 10,000 employees across the Metroplex, and we're really glad to have you a part of it. My business is a member company of the organization as well, but I'm on their leadership council, and I help bring in Trey. So yes, how we got connected. So we're both on the leadership council. Yeah.
Well, we will do that, and we'll try and do it as soon
Excellent.
as we can.
That sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, that concludes for today. We'll see you next time on the Working Title Show with Zach Sams. Thanks.